Mewtwo, a Pokemon cloned from the source of all life, scientifically modified to bring its strength to its very limits. A creature with enough psychic power to create legendary storms, level entire cities, and come out on top against gods. A pocket monster so strong that only the best trainers in the region are allowed to approach it. A being constructed to serve as the world's strongest fighter. Yeah, I think I can do better. Hello, dear viewer, and welcome to this tiny slice of YouTube I've carved out for myself. My name is Hydrochlorine, and today I plan on creating the perfect Pokemon. And when I say that, I mean it. Those scientists on Cinnabar Island that worked tirelessly night and day to create the ultimate battling Pokemon were limited by puny things like biology and game balance. I'm not. This Pokemon should be literally unstoppable, capable of winning any and all battles that it takes part in, all on its own, with no help required. Within the limits of the Gen 1 games, of course. As funny as it would be, I'm not going to give my Pokemon a one-hit KO move that hits 100% of the time and always makes them move first. So, what exactly does this unbeatable Pokemon consist of? Well, there are a couple of factors that we need to take into account when designing our unstoppable being. Number one is base stats. Obviously. This is the bread and butter when it comes to Pokemon. One of the first things people think of when asked why a Pokemon is strong. This is what separates a Magikarp from a Gyarados, a Charmander from a Charizard, a Weedle from an Alakazam. To choose our glorious masterpiece's base stats, we're going to partake in a cute little activity known as plagiarism. Instead of trying to come up with some comically high numbers by myself, I'm going to sort out every Pokemon in Gen 1, then pick the Pokemon with the highest amount in each stat, and then I'm going to use that for our Pokemon. As an example, Chansey here has 250 base HP, the highest in the game. Because of this, we're going to be giving our custom Pokemon 250 base HP. I think that doing this would be more interesting than simply setting the stats to the maximum value, so even if our Pokemon isn't technically perfect, I hope you'll bear with me. Oh, and before I post what the final base stats are, I want you all to try to guess each of the funny numbers that I'm going to copy from other Generation 1 Pokemon. In the meantime, I guess I'll go get some water or something? I don't know. Alright, I'm back. So, have your answers? If you're familiar with the Pokemon in Red, Blue, and Yellow, or at least an online database, you may have come up with numbers somewhere around this range. There's Chansey's base HP of 250, Dragonate's base attack of 134, Cloyster's defense stat of 180, Mewtwo's special attack and special defense stat of 154, and Electrode's speed stat of 140, for a base stat total of 858. If you're looking at the diagram right now, confused as to why it only says special as opposed to special attack and special defense, that's because they were both calculated with the same stat back in Gen 1. Now, if you came up with these numbers, you'd be wrong. You see, Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow are held together by smoke, mirrors, and band-aids. There aren't too many noticeable glitches, if only because there's a lot that these games just straight up don't tell you. But if you go about 10 steps off the beaten path, your ass is going to be knee-deep in bugs. And I don't mean Venonat. Some of these glitches take the form of new and fucked up Pokemon, some of which have their very own stat lines. Take my good friend .G here. This glitch Pokemon special stat is a whopping 254, entire 100 points higher than Mewtwo. It is in Pokemon Red and Blue, so I don't see a reason to leave it out of our calculations. Taking these guys into account, our stats go even higher. We can use UL's attack stat of 152, .G's special stat of 254, and 4H's speed stat of 176, boosting our total base stat total from 858 to 1012. Go ahead and leave a comment if you managed to guess our stats correctly, or hell, even if you didn't guess, leave a comment anyway, because comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. Oh, but before I end this section of the video, I should talk about one of the Gen 1 mechanics that the game doesn't tell you about. Instead of having a consistent crit rate of 1 in 16 or 1 in 24, your critical hit rate in these games is based on your base speed. If you take your Pokemon's base speed and then divide it by 510, you'll end up with the percent chance that your Pokemon has of getting a critical hit. With a base speed stat of 176, this works out to be a 34% chance, which means 1 out of 3 attacks are going to be a critical hit. Next up on the list is our typing. almost any YouTuber that talks about RBY will inevitably touch on the topic of the Psychic type, or more accurately, how it is the best type in the entire game. The Psychic type didn't have any real weaknesses on the type chart, as Dark didn't exist, there weren't any good bug type moves, and Psychic was literally immune to ghost moves thanks to a programming error. You may be wondering how the game devs managed to fuck up such an iconic type interaction so badly, but honestly, when the only ghost move that acts like a normal attack is Lick, you probably won't be using Ghost offensively anyway. However, there are already plenty of strong Psychic type Pokemon. Does it really need another one? There's probably a couple of other types that we could use that'd be more unique and just as good. Some watchers that are familiar with the type matchups in these games might suggest giving this Pokemon a normal and ghost typing. After all, normal type Pokemon are only weak to fighting moves, but ghost types are immune to those, and ghost types are only weak to other ghost moves, but normal types take no damage from those. Being a normal ghost type would mean that the Pokemon would have zero weaknesses in these games. That's not good enough though. You see, there's still one more instant loss condition in the Generation 1 that hangs over almost every Pokemon's head, like some sort of blade of an Italian guy hanging by a thread, but the thread only has like a 10% chance of snapping each turn, but if they're Japan, then sometimes it has a 30% chance of falling every turn. Whatever, I think this simile is like run away from me, but I'm talking about the freeze status effect. Being frozen in blue, yellow, and red was basically a death sentence. Unlike in the newer games, a Pokemon couldn't thaw out on its own. The enemy Pokemon either had to use Haze, which would reset all status conditions, or hit the frozen Pokemon with any move that has a chance to inflict a burn. So, any fire type move except for Fire Spin. If there's a Pokemon with enough bulk to survive an attack and it uses Ice Beam, Ice Punch, or Blizzard, then there's a 10% chance that our Pokemon loses. We can't have that. There is a way around it, however. You see, Ice type Pokemon cannot be frozen. So, if our Pokemon is part Ice, then we don't have to worry about that 10% chance of just being ruined. Now, that still leaves us with an optional secondary type, which I will be taking advantage of. Admittedly, aside from the necessity of being an Ice Pokemon, our type doesn't actually matter that much. With the base stats I've picked out for us, giving or taking super effective or not very effective damage won't really affect the chances of winning any given match. But, I've decided on giving our Pokemon a secondary Ghost type. As I've mentioned before, Ghost Pokemon are immune to normal moves. And as you can see on this graph that I've provided for you, okay, I've stopped providing the graph, about 69% of Pokemon in these games, nice, have normal type moves. And of those Pokemon, 1 out of 5 will have nothing except for normal type moves. With our new Ghost typing, we're going to be able to avoid taking damage from any of them. And that's a lot of moves to not have to worry about. Alright, next up on the docket is the moveset, which can make or break a Pokemon, regardless of its typing or base stats. Usually. With 152 base attack and 254 base special, even if the only moves available were like Cut and Absorb, you'd still probably be able to sweep an entire game, or at least live long enough to chip down any opponent's HP bars. What I've decided to do then is to give the Pokemon 4 moves that it will use for the entire game. So, what moves have I decided to saddle this guy with? I've chosen to give our Pokemon Ice Beam, Psychic, Earthquake, and Thunderbolt. So, you may be wondering why I picked these 4 moves in particular. Well, they're all pretty high powered, none of them has a base power less than 90, and when put together, they hit a wide variety of types and Pokemon in this game. If you want a bit more reasoning though, Ice Beam is here because it's the same type as our Pokemon, so it does 50% more damage. Psychic and Thunderbolt are here because they hit the many water and poison types of Kanto, and Earthquake is here to do physical damage, which helps against Pokemon like Alakazam and Chansey, with high special stats. Now, I can't hit every Pokemon for super effective damage with only 4 moves. There are too many Pokemon types that are only weak to like 1 or 2 things for that to work, but we hit everything for at least neutral damage. So, with our moves out of the way, that leaves one last thing that we need to pick out: the EXP group. The EXP group is the thing that determines how much EXP you need to level up, and in RBY there are 4 of them. You got fast, medium slow, and slow. Now, the faster you level up, the faster you get more stat points, so obviously we're going to want the fastest EXP group, right? Yes we will. Alright, well that section was pretty short, so let's get a fun fact about Red, Blue, and Yellow in here. Did you know that there are only 2 rock type moves in this game? Because there are, and they both suck. Your options are either Rock Throw, a horribly inaccurate move with subpar base power, only suitable for the beginning of the game, and Rock Slide, an inconveniently inaccurate move with mediocre base power that doesn't even make targets flinch in this game. To make matters worse, the only two Pokemon to get Rock Throw are the Geodude line and Onix, and nobody gets Rock Slide, at least not through leveling up. The only way a Pokemon can learn Rock Slide is through a TM that disappears when you use it. Of course, in classic Pokemon fashion, only one of these exists. There's like 6 different rock Pokemon in this game, and at best, only 3 of them are going to be able to use rock type attacks. Not to mention all the non-rock Pokemon that would appreciate having a rock move. God, could you imagine having to play Pokemon Red with only rock types? That would suck. You can't see it, but I'm smirking and wiggling my eyebrows right now. Because this is the part where a little information bubble will pop up in the top corner of the screen, and if you click it, it takes you to a link to my rock-type hardcore Nuzlocke. If that video's out anyway. If it's not, well, now you have a reason to subscribe and hit the bell icon, so you don't miss it when it does release. Man, I'm great at YouTube. Phew, alright. So we got a theoretically perfect Pokemon. Astronomical stats, excellent typing, good moves, and a fast level curve. Is that it? Well, if you check the time signature on the video just now, obviously not. Unless I happen to have a cartoonishly long outro sequence. Hell, I haven't even given this thing a name yet, or a design. So, I figured that I'd take a weird and or surrealistic design from somewhere else, and go from there. My search led me to this piece of art, Big Crowd of Creatures by Frankenduo, which has plenty of oddball creatures that I could turn into a Pokemon. Let's see, eeny, meeny, miny, you. Ah shit, the circle's in the wrong place. There we go. Computer, zoom in. That's right. In order to represent the perfect Pokemon, we're going to be using Goku. As you might have expected though, we're still not done yet. We have to put theory into practice. I sent my perfectly legitimate copy of Pokemon Red to my cat, who has a part-time job at Nintendo, alongside this sprite of Goku and the information required, and when I got it back, it had Goku implemented, ready for me to run through the entire game with it alone. Now, I don't think that seeing Goku rolling over every mandatory trainer is the most entertaining thing in the world, so I'm just going to show off how he matches up against the boss battles, rival fights, gym leaders, Giovanni fights, and the entire Pokemon League. I'm also not going to use items in these battles, or switch to one of the other Pokemon that I'm using for HMs. Unless it would be funny. In that case, all bets are off, and I cannot be legally held accountable for the actions I take. Oh, and I'm going to be using sped up game footage throughout the rest of this video. I have animations turned off, but you may still want to avert your eyes if you have photosensitivity issues. Alright, let's get this show on the road. Goku replaced Charmander, so the rival naturally picks Squirtle. I click Thunderbolt, and I win. I don't know if you expected anything different. On Route 21, there's an optional battle against your rival that you can do before beating Brock. Despite having additional Pokemon, and also having both of them be around level 10, that doesn't stop me from clicking 2 attacks and winning. Next up is the first gym leader, Brock. Geodude is wiped out by a single Ice Beam, no surprises there, but his next Pokemon may prove to be a little more challenging. That's right, Brock's ace in Red and Blue is none other than Super Onix. It's not that different than normal Onix, but it's hacking higher bulk with 70 special and 255 defense. As you can see here, even a critical hit Earthquake deals less than half of its HP. Ice Beam finishes it off though, thanks to its more sane special stat, but man, those things were scary as a child. It's kinda weird that Game Freak decided to never bring it back, especially since it was the only pure rock type before Sudowoodo, but perhaps they thought that 255 defense was just too nutty. Anyway, Boulder Badge obtained. Flashing forward through Mount Moon, my next opponent is Misty, the water type gym leader. Man, it would suck for her if Goku had a grass type move. Sadly, all I have is Thunderbolt, so I guess I'll have to make do. Much like with Brock, her lead, a Staryu, is taken out with a single super effective attack. Next up, however, is a matchup that people have theorized about for years. Who would win, Goku or 1 billion SpongeBobs? Altogether, the SpongeBobs have some pretty insane bulk. Imagine if Chansey decided to invest some of its huge HP stat into defense. Just like Chansey, however, they can't exactly do a lot of damage. A critical hit Thunderbolt isn't enough to kill it from full, but the SpongeBobs don't do that much with Absorb, letting me finish it off with another Thunderbolt. Cascade Badge obtained. Next in line is the rival battle at Nugget Bridge. Pidgeotto gets Ice Beamed, Abra is punched in the face with the force of an Earthquake, and Rattata and Squirtle are dispatched with Thunderbolt. My next important battle is the rival on the SS Sand. Thanks to the cartoonishly large amount of trainers that we were forced to fight, Goku's pretty overleveled, standing at a towering level 25 compared to the rivals Pokemon. The only one at level 20 or above is Wartortle. Needless to say, it's another one-shot sweep. After him comes Lieutenant Surge, the Lightning American. His first Pokemon is Voltorb, who was taken down by an earthquake. Pikachu shares the same fate. Surge's final Pokemon, however, is none other than the Blue Blur himself, Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic is a pure normal type, and the fastest Pokemon in the game. His other stats, however, don't exactly match up to ours, and with his moveset, he can't actually do anything to us. Goku freezes him to death. Thunder Badge obtained. The next area we have to go through is Rock Tunnel. It's pretty infamous for being dark as fuck, but honestly the darkness effects in Gen 1 suck ass, so it's not too bad to navigate. Really the only reason I'm bringing this up is because of this one hiker who has a nuclear bomb on him. Now, I'm not gonna let Goku just sit there and take an atomic detonation, so I swap him out for this Dugtrio I caught earlier. Your sacrifice will be remembered, Dugtrio. The next fight on the list is Erika, the Celadon City gym leader. Smart strategy is the key to victory. And by smart strategy, I really mean just clicking super effective moves. Victory Bell goes down to a Psychic, and Tangela falls to an Ice Beam. Erika's final Pokemon is a bit bulkier than that though. Enter Yggdrasil, the unfathomably large tree from Norse mythology that serves as a bridge between different worlds. With 125 in both defensive stats and HP, it'll take, never mind. Goku crit Ice Beam for a one-shot. Rainbow Badge obtained. Happy Pride, everybody. You know, I'm hoping this video is finished before June is over, but on the other hand, that line gets funnier the further away Pride Month is. Anyway, normally you'd have to infiltrate a hidden base full of Mafia goons in order to pick up a key item here, but instead I go to the store and buy a cute doll. After this, I take on the rival fight in Pokemon Tower. I just sweep through his entire team again. I might have to just skip past these fights if he doesn't have anything new or interesting, you know? Also in Pokemon Tower, there's this ghost that blocks the way forward. While you could use that key item from the Team Rocket base to identify it and take it down, I opted instead to just offer up that doll I bought earlier as a peace offering to get it to calm down. Make love, not war. Both of the important fights in Silph Co are easy. Sure, the rival swapped his Pidgeotto and Kadabra for the superior Doduo and Jinx, but even that, and his new Blastoise with a gun, can't stop Goku from tearing through his team. Giovanni, he exists, I guess. I don't know, he's easy. Sabrina time. Alright, you all know that she's gonna have some stupid shit as her last Pokemon, so let's cut to the chase. It's Joe Biden, the 46th President of the United States. Sleepy Joe here is sorta like if an Alakazam worked out at the gym with a high 150 attack and 135 special. But it's not faster than Goku, meaning I can take it out with a crit Ice Beam before he hits me with like a Biden Blast or something. Good job, Goku. Marsh Badge obtained. The quickest way to the next gym is through Cycling Road, but to use that you need a bike. Unfortunately, I didn't spend 1 million Pokédollars on a bike, but luckily for me, there's an alternative solution. I can simply rent a bike. By pressing left over and over again when this guy tries to stop me from going to Cycling Road, I can eventually be more stubborn than him and just walk through anyway. And when I enter Cycling Road proper, the game will automatically put me on a bike. Lucky me. Time to fight Koga. Grimer, Wheezing, and Coughing all go down to a single Psychic each, so that leaves Koga with no choice but to bring out the most toxic Pokemon ever designed. Twitter. Twitter is basically the 4th legendary bird of Kanto, being a poison flying type with pretty high stats. As a flying type though, and one with a stat spread that is suited for its stab types of poison and flying, it's not good enough to live a single Ice Beam from Goku. Soul Badge obtained. After a quick trip to the Safari Zone to pick up the HM for Surf, I take a quick trip back to the Safari Zone because I forgot to get someone's golden dentures. Anyway, with that out of the way, I'm able to surf the waves to Cinnabar, and after exploring a mansion for a key, I am finally allowed to fight. Oh, fuck me, I have to answer trivia questions. Alright, now I'm allowed to fight Blaine. He tells me that I better have burn heals, but this is the guy that says TM28 doesn't contain Tombstoner, when Bulbapedia clearly says that it does, so I didn't actually bring any. You know the drill. Blaine's first 3 Pokemon come out and are defeated in a single Earthquake each, but what you're probably waiting for is how Goku matches up against his final Pokemon, Behemoth. Behemoth is a kaiju that also happens to show up in the web serial Worm, and with 110 HP and 150 defense, it's almost untouchable on the physical side. Goku fucking kills him because Blaine decided that using a super potion was a better use of time instead of using Fire Blast or something. Thanks, Blaine. I even threw by using Earthquake instead of Ice Beam on turn 1 because I really wanted to see what he could do. Volcano Badge obtained. Anyway, the last gym leader in Kanto is none other than Giovanni, the guy who we saw like once and he got his ass turned inside out.
He seems to have gone on vacation in the short time we haven't seen him though, as his last Pokemon is a ground-type Starmobile. Oh Christ, that sprite is so much uglier than I remember making it.
Yeah, here's what it's supposed to look like, with and without the Game Boy palette that I'm using. I click Ice Beam just to get this mistake off of my screen. Jesus Christ. Earth Badge obtained. There's one more rival fight before the end of the game to take care of, so let's do that. Dodrio, Rhyhorn, and Execute go down to Ice Beam, Growlithe is served an Earthquake, and then Joe Biden comes out and deals 2/3 of our HP with a critical hit, super effective Bite and Blast. Good thing Goku's faster. Joe Biden may have taken the first Ice Beam, but he can't take a second one. Lastly, Guntoist goes down to a Thunderbolt. It's time to take on the Elite Four and finish the game. First up is Lorelei. The first half of her team is dispatched with a single Thunderbolt each, and Jinx goes down to a single Earthquake. Her Genkin is out last, and while her high stats may be a problem for other weaker Pokemon, still gets finished off with 2 Psychics. Second is Bruno. The Super Onix are both taken down by Ice Beam, and his Psychic gets rid of the Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. His last Pokemon is Superman, and while he has the highest possible defense stat of 255, alongside really good numbers in his other stats, he is in fact a fighting type, so Goku beats Superman with a single Psychic. Third is Agatha, and her first 4 Pokemon are all poison types, so Psychic and Earthquake shred through them without any trouble. After Arbok falls to an Earthquake, Agatha sends out her strongest Pokemon, the Ghost of Christmas Past. He lives a Psychic and even sets up an Amnesia, but the first Psychic was a critical hit, leaving the Spirit at too low HP to survive a second one. The final member of the Elite Four crew is Lance. Thunderbolt takes care of Gyarados and Aerodactyl, while Ice Beams delete both of the Dragonair. Lance's trump card is Eternatus, which has the highest stats of any Pokemon ever created. Even Goku has a lower base stat total than this thing. It's still a Dragon type though, and a critical hit Ice Beam takes it out in one hit. With the Elite Four defeated, there lies only one more opponent in between me and my final goal, the rival. He's beaten the Elite Four first, so I have to duel him for the champion seat. Not to mention that he's gathered up the strongest Pokemon in the world to take me down. In other words, he looks pretty strong. Let Goku fight him. First out is Superman, who still can't take a Psychic from Goku. Next is Joe Biden. He's given us a lot of trouble in the past, and as he survives an Earthquake, he threatens us once again with a powerful Bite and Blast. A Bite and Blast that he misses. It's only 95% accurate in this game, which is quite fortunate for us. That said, this battle does force move animations on, and I did actually make a custom Bite and Blast animation. So I swap in this Machop called Subscribe in order to get him to use it, but the rival has good AI, so Machop dies to a Psychic instead. Oops. I sent Goku back in, and like I said, I spent time on that Bite and Blast animation, so I'm going to see it in this video. I used the Poke Flute to stall out a turn. Oh yeah, look at that animation. Honestly, it did a lot less than I was expecting. I don't even think a critical hit would have killed Goku there. Joe Biden gets finished off by an Earthquake. The rival's third Pokemon is that ugly-ass ground Starmobile that he stole from Giovanni, who stole it from Team Star, and I go for an Earthquake because this thing also has a custom move in Sandy Torque. Yeah, look at it go. Ice Beam ends it. Fourth is Behemoth, who also goes down to an Ice Beam before he can even move. I think Worm would be a lot shorter if Goku was there to help out. Next is the bulky Yggdrasil again, who goes down to an Ice Beam. Man, this move is really putting in the work. The final Pokemon in the entire game is Guntoist. It actually survives a Thunderbolt and counters with a super effective Rock Slide. A Rock Slide that does practically no damage, allowing Goku to finish it off with a final Thunderbolt. There's a bunch of shit here that I don't really care about, but skipping past all that allows us to register Goku in the Hall of Fame. Effectively immortalizing him is exactly the thing I set out to create. The perfect Pokemon. For an in-game playthrough, anyway. The competitive scene of this game, and the whole series for that matter, is an entirely different beast. There's opponents that can think and plan, after all. I'd have to consider moveset variety to counter specific threats, how to deal with things like status conditions and setup moves, basically any ounce of strategy beyond click the super effective move. If you'd want to see a video detailing what a perfect competitive Gen 1 Pokemon would look like, let me know in a comment, preferably a separate one than the comments I've already asked you to make throughout the video, for the algorithm and all that, and I'll add it to the list of videos to make. As you can probably tell, this is my first video that isn't just some sort of music thing, so if you have any thoughts or suggestions on how to better this new skill of mine, well, you know where to leave it. While I do intend on creating much more Pokemon related content in the future, I also plan on doing videos about other media like Mega Man or Toho or a Super Kiwi 64. So, regardless of whether or not you like Pokemon, subscribe to my channel and stick around to see if I cover anything you like. See you for now, YouTube.